Most knitters seem to hate sewing up their work. To be honest, I enjoy knitting in the round because it avoids having to sew anything. But sewing up knitting can be very satisfying, especially if you manage to make the seams invisible. I'm going to show you how to sew up 2 pieces of garter stitch. That is, knitting made purely from using the knit stitch. This method will leave your work looking seamless and able to lie completely flat, and can also be used for sewing up moss or seed stitch pieces. First of all, line up the 2 pieces that you'll be sewing together, with the right side of the work facing you. If they're large pieces, it's worth pinning them in place to make sure they stay lined up. Then, thread up a bodkin. A bodkin, or a tapestry needle, is a large blunt needle, ideal for sewing wool as it doesn't split it easily, and it has a big eye, making it easy to thread. I'm using a contrasting colour so you can see the stitches, but usually you'd use the same wool as you've been knitting in, or if you have enough tail left when you cast on, you can use that. Then, if you're not using the cast on tail, you need to anchor your sewing wool by stitching up in the first stitch, and then back down through the first stitch on the other piece. You can weave these ends in later. You can see on these pieces of knitting that there's some smiley shapes with upturned edges and some grumpies with downturned edges. What we're going to do is sew the smileys and the grumpies together so they look like a continuation of the knitting. As you can see on this line, it's smiley, grumpy, all the way along, so our sewing should just keep that pattern running along. Smiley with upturned edges and grumpy with downturned edges. So insert your needle into the first smiley on your right hand piece of work. And then move across and insert it into the corresponding grumpy on your left hand piece of work. And then back across to a smiley on the right. Which lines up with the grumpy on the left. Back across to a smiley on the right. And just keep on working your way back and forth like you're working your way up a ladder. Don't pull your stitches too tight at this stage, you can tighten them up later. And when you get to the end, you should have an invisible seam between the 2 pieces.